You wouldn't even know that they were home because like they were just very quiet all the time and like very polite. She would knock on my door and like, what is going on? And then she would have this like bag full of stuff and I was like, huh? Like, what is this? So like I got the bag and like it was all this like really trendy. Hello, I'm Haylene. I'm from the US and I've been living in Korea for 3 years. Yeah, for right now. They know me because another one of my neighbors has a dog and then I also have 2 dogs. So we say hi to each other and pet each other's dogs. In the 3 years that I've been living here, I've never had any conflict with any neighbors. They're usually really nice and welcoming. I think it's just that how everyone lives really near each other, like the apartments are kind of close together. I think everyone kind of wants to keep the peace. Like there's no reason to be nasty or angry to each other. So I think living so close to each other, usually you see each other really often, like if you guys leave the house at the same time or whatever. So I think everyone thinks the same way, like it's better to be like friendly and like kind and like greet each other if you guys see each other. So when I first moved to Korea, I was living in Bundang. So every morning I would go to the same bus stop to go to my classes. It was kind of like on a hill. On that hill there was an older lady who would always sell toast. And I would pass by there every day and I would get toast from her because I was usually in a rush. I would just wake up really late and I would like run out of the house. I wouldn't have time to eat like an actual breakfast at home. So I would always stop by her toast stand and I would get toast from her. And I ended up going like every day, or at least like passing by every day. I would buy her toast so often that she introduced herself to me, so like we knew each other's names, and like every time I would go walk past her, she would always say hi to me. She was always really nice. She would always prepare the toast in advance for me because she knew I was coming. And then for about a week, I didn't go because I had to go to the hospital. So I didn't show up for a week, ended up coming back and like walking down the same route. She was like so mad at me. Like she stopped me and she was like, hold on, like wait a minute, like where were you? Like where did you go? Like I haven't seen you for a week. I was really worried. She didn't speak English and at that time I was really beginner in Korean, but we understood each other enough to like I could tell her that I went to the hospital and like I was hurt like on my side, and she lifted up my shirt and she saw that I had a scar and she was like, oh my gosh, like she was like, oh my goodness, like what happened? Like are you okay? Like you need to rest. Yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay, like don't worry, like everything is okay now. And I tried to explain to her what happened and she was like, oh my gosh, just hold on a second. And then she went and like she made toast and she gave me a free toast. A little after that, she actually ended up like moving locations, I think. She was never there ever again. And I ended up moving, so I actually never saw her again. Well, since it was like my first few months in Korea, at that time I didn't really know anyone. I was pretty much just going home, going to class, going home, going to class, back and forth. She made me feel like really welcome, like comforting and really nice to know that even though there was such a big language barrier between us at that time, she didn't think of me any differently. She just thought of me as like a person. At that same street that I was working at, there was a sanitary worker and he would always be cleaning like the sidewalk and the streets near the bus stop that I always went to every morning. And we would always be there at the same time. At first, like obviously we just like ignored each other and like there was nothing going on, but we started seeing each other so often that we started greeting each other. He would always say hi to me and like ask me about like my day and like what was gonna go on, and you know I would do the same back to him, again with like a huge language barrier because it was like my first year in Korea. But he was always really nice and really positive, and he was always really happy to see me. And then one day it was raining, and since I'm always late to my class, I had forgotten my umbrella, and so I just like ran out of my house. I ran like to the bus stop and I didn't really have time to gather any of my things, and he saw me and he asked me like, where's your umbrella? And you know I told him like, oh, like it's okay, it's just sprinkling. And he's like, hold on. So he like walked away for like a few minutes and then he came back with an umbrella, and it was his umbrella, and he told me like, you can take this, just use it for the day, like I don't really need it. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, like I'm really okay, like I'm almost inside like all day, like I'm just in class, so it's not that serious, like I don't need it. And he's like, no, like he was insisting. He's like, please take it, please take it. So I took it and then I used it for the rest of the day. And then the next day when I came back to the bus stop, I tried to return his umbrella. And then he was like, no way, like no, like I don't need it, you keep it. And I was like, what? Like, no, this is yours, please take it back. And he was like, no, see you later, bye. And then he like walked off. So yeah, he let me keep his umbrella, which was really nice. And then yeah, shortly after that, I moved and I didn't get to see him anymore. But it was really nice of him to do that. So after I had moved to Songpa, I was living alone in this house, and the houses there were pretty small, so like all of the neighbors were like directly next to each other. And I think what initially grabbed her attention was that I had 2 dogs, so they're pretty big, and it was like a really small house. So I think that's what initially caught her attention. So one day she came out of her apartment as the same time I did. She started asking about my dogs at first. She was like, oh, what are their names? Like, I'm really scared of dogs, but they're really cute. Like, that's how initially it had started. And then every now and then we would leave the apartment at the same time. And so she would always like greet me and say hi to me and like kind of start up a short conversation. Her husband was actually a pastor. So I think they were both like very religious. Like they were both like very quiet couple. You wouldn't even know that they were home because like they were just very quiet all the time and like very polite. After a few months living there and like getting to know her, she would knock on my door and like, what is going on? And then she would have this like bag full of stuff. And I was like, huh? Like, what is this? And then she told me like, I have all of this clothes that used to fit me when I was skinnier. I don't really need it anymore. I gathered it all up for you. If you want some stuff from this bag, go ahead and take it. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So like I got the bag and like it was all this like really nice like trendy clothes and it was like my size and I was like, what the heck? I was like, oh my gosh, like thank you so much. And like every now and then she would offer me clothes. I don't know why she had that many clothes, but she would always like every now and then knock on my door and like offer me to give me some of her old clothes. So that was like really nice. It was a little surprising and like awkward at first because I was like, okay, but she was always very nice to me. I think it's really awesome, especially if you're a foreigner, like especially moving into like a new country that you may not know the language or not know the culture or anything like that when you first move here. I think friendly people and friendly neighbors especially like in the neighborhood that you live in can really like help you adjust and feel a lot more comfortable in your new situation that you've put yourself in. Yeah, I think it's a really positive thing about this country that people are always usually generally very kind to each other. So today I've spoken about my experiences with my Korean neighbors and the kind people that I've met, and I'm so glad to have met everyone that I've met so far. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.